And we are live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of the Gaming Perspective. Today, we're going to be talking about early access titles and all these juicy E3 leaks that have come out so earlier than usual. So we'll dive right into the panel. Introducing my co-host, Ragevirus. How are you doing today, sir?
Not too shabby. How's everybody doing? Thank you for tuning in to the Gaming Perspective. I am Ragevirus. You can find me at thelootgaming.com or on Twitter at ragevirus_X.
Beautiful. And Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey there, everybody. Thank you for once again coming out and talking with us on this Saturday night. Hope you're all having a great day. I'm at Samuel Tolbert on Twitter with TICGN, and we've got a great episode planned for you.
All right, and obviously, if you come to my channel, you already know me, so introductions are pointless. So, gentlemen, what have you been playing this week? Rage, we'll start with you, because you're playing a game that I'm currently on the fence about, so.
Surviving Mars?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, man. Like, this game has been phenomenal. I don't know what it is about it, but it has a very addictive type of gameplay to it. It keeps you busy, but then at certain points you're not as busy as you were before, so you kind of just sit there and zone out and micromanage everything. But then all of a sudden work just builds up, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's wonderful. I've been quite happy with it.
So like, gameplay wise, are we talking like this is like 2018's like Sim City, basically?
Yeah, you could say that easily.
Oh, right on. I'm definitely gonna have to look into that. I got really confused with all the editions, because there's like the $39 edition, then there's a deluxe edition, and then there's a $79, like it's like Founders edition. I'm sitting there going, ooh, what's in that one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all just cosmetics for what the buildings look like.
Okay, skipping on that then. Wonderful. Rage. Not Rage. God. I'm off this podcast. Great. Don't mind me. I did not sleep well today at all. So, yeah, there's that. So, Sam, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing a lot of stuff, actually. I've been playing some more Halo Wars 2, continuing on that, trying to get some weekly challenges, get my rank up, get back into the flow of things, all that good stuff. I also have been trying out one of the free games with gold, Super Hot.
Man.
I remembered seeing it back at like Gamescom 2014 or 2015, something like that. And I remember thinking it looked really interesting, even though it was obnoxious how they kept going super hot. Super hot. But that aside, the concept looked really cool, and I just completely forgot about it. So I was really happy to see it arrive on Games with Gold. I've been having a ton of fun with it, played it for about 2 hours. Today I started. It's a lot of fun. There's also some easy achievements. If there's anyone out here who loves achievements, it's a great game to get some easy gamer score. And let's see what else. Oh, I've also been getting back into Total War Warhammer 2. I've been having a lot of fun with that. They released some patches and some updates with some new races, and it's a ton of fun.
Right on. I myself have literally have not been playing anything this week.
Busy.
Between work and keeping up with articles and stuff, I've been slacking on games like hard. I'm pretty much abandoning my backlog. I have so many games in my backlog. I decided I was gonna make a 5 list. 5 that I absolutely have to play and beat in order to feel satisfied with my backlog. And I've got The Witcher 3. I've got Final Fantasy 15 because it's my first Final Fantasy, so I feel obligated to.
Those are both long games too. Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, those are a joke.
Actually, all the games on the list are long. Bloodborne, Persona 5, and Nier Automata. So, yeah.
Oh shoot, Bloodborne straight to the top of that list. That actually
I watched a friend of mine live stream Bloodborne, and they did like a co-op run through, and they beat the game in 8 hours, which was impressive as hell to watch. Apparently, it's not that long. I just suck.
Well, no, here's the thing. I need to specify something. Bloodborne, there's a ton of stuff you can do in it. The thing is, unlike the other like Souls games, if you will, a ton of the content in Bloodborne is optional. If you know where you need to go, you only have to hit a handful of bosses and do a couple of specific things. The thing is, without a guide, your first time through, good luck figuring out what those things are.
Yeah, that's true. It's going to take forever.
See, I'm using a guide so I don't miss bosses because I feel like it sounds stupid. Like
it isn't.
I hate to say it, but like with a game like Bloodborne, I kind of look at Bloodborne and like the Souls series kind of the same way I look at Cuphead. Like in the way that like the running guns were just fillers in between the bosses. I feel like the paths in between the bosses in Bloodborne and Dark Souls are just like filler content to get to the boss. That's necessary. But what hugely helped me with Bloodborne is realizing if you just farm, it's not that bad. Like on the first boss, God, if I can remember his name, Cleric Beast, I think. Big guy on the bridge. I spent 2 hours getting to him and trying to beat him. And I was like, man, I always run out of blood vials. My gear is crap. I'm just doing awful. And then someone was like, oh, man, what you need to do is you just need to farm it. He's like, just beat through the town, then go back, upgrade your stuff, then farm the town. And then he's like, do it two or three times and then take them on. So I was like, okay. So I started a new game. Farmed, did that, changed up the weapon I was using, and I beat it on the first try, and I was like,
this is so much better. Yes.
I'm just like, I've been playing this game wrong. Like, I have very little experience in Souls-esque games. I thought you just ran at the nearest boss and hoped for the best, but it's so much more complicated than that.
No. There's so much more to it than that, dude. There's so much more.
And like, I'm gonna have to talk to you, Sam, about this because like, there's so many items I have. I'm like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, what does this do?
And the heck is you that? Won't really use half of them either, honestly. You won't. Like in certain special occasions, you'll be using these items that do special effects or whatever, but you might be like 2 or 3 times in a playthrough, if at all. You'll tend to stick to your most used items through the whole game.
Yeah, like I've been sitting there. I'm like, I've been picking up stuff, and it's like, oh, do you want to use this now? I'm like, no, because knowing my luck, 30 hours from now, I'm gonna need that.
Yeah, and you forward everything, and you go to your inventory. I'm like, all right, I'm 150 items down, almost at the bottom of the page. Oh, no, I don't have the item I need out of all this.
Yeah,
all right.
It's definitely a unique experience. It's something I want to knock out of my backlog. I'm also working on Ratchet and Clank as my like little bit of fun to have in the background. Like I don't know if anyone else does that, but I feel like when I play like really long games, I always have like a little fun game that I play in the background. Like when I was going through and playing a lot of Kingdom Come Deliverance, I was using Super Lucky's Tale to break it up.
Oh, yeah.
Which was a fantastic game as well. But definitely helps break it up. And with Bloodborne, I need to take more breaks than someone who gets dizzy playing PSVR. Because I only have one DualShock controller and I don't need that drama in my life. All right, so we're gonna get into the topics today. So we're gonna talk a little bit about early access because early access and games preview on Xbox One has kind of become a big thing as of late. And it's been giving devs a lot of options. And there's also been issues that have spawned from it as well. It's kind of different strokes, so to speak, when it comes to game preview. There's a lot of different opinions on game preview on whether or not it's good. So I just want to kind of get your guys' thoughts on early access as a whole. We're going to start with, what do you think of we're talking like Steam Greenlight, early like game preview, all of it. Like, what's your opinion on early access titles?
They're good. It's a good thing. There's no reason for it to be seen as a bad way because you're giving indie developers to have an opportunity to actually have the games published to very, very large mass of people. Not just that, but also with like I'm pretty sure with both Greenlight, the Steam Early Access, and the Xbox Game Preview, you are given access to certain resources that allow you to help develop those games and make them better in ways that you maybe didn't have them in the first place. And usually this is all at a free cost. So I think it's a wonderful thing.
Perfect. I agree. Sam, what about yourself?
So I agree there are definitely benefits. I'm a little more held back. I'm a little more reserved, not because of the idea. The idea of game preview, the idea of early access is a great thing, and I think it's very helpful for developers, like you guys have said. Maybe developers have limited resources, but they've got a great idea, and if they can get a working, solid prototype of that idea out to the masses and get some buy-in, then they can develop the game, make it even better, build it stronger, all that good stuff. The problem is many times that's not what we actually see. What we end up getting is something that never leaves early access. We get titles like, for example, DayZ. How much has it actually changed from when it came to early access on Steam and now? And things like that. And you run into performance issues. You run into this idea of, well, yes, they're not charging full price, but people are still paying for something that might be broken and they aren't actually legally required to fix. I like the idea. I just think it needs a lot more curation, particularly on the Steam side. I think Microsoft has done a little bit better of a job curating the Xbox game preview section, but it's still not perfect. And the Steam side is just, it's gotten absolutely ridiculous.
My biggest one, I want to fault Microsoft for, and I kind of want to call them out on it, is the culling.
I never played it. How'd that go?
Yeah, I played it. It was fun. It was like Battle Royale, basically like, spears, bows. You could get some upgraded weapons. It was a cool idea, but the developers straight up have abandoned it on console. They have no plans of future updates. Everything else, the player base was just not there once PUBG hit. And they've abandoned updates for the console. They're still updating the PC version because there is a market for it on PC, but just not on the console space. But the worst part of that is it still goes on sale and it's still featured in the marketplace.
Right. Yeah. It's like, why? Pull it.
And and like, for me, it's an ethical thing when you start having games like, if you have a game that's been abandoned by the developers, me personally, you should be like, all right, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to pull this off of our marketplace because the developers aren't supporting it anymore. Because the worst part is when they pulled the development from, like, they came out and said, I think it was on Monday, they came out and said that they're dropping all console support for the culling. And then on Tuesday, it went on sale for 75% off, and a ton of people I know bought it. And to me, that's just a really, really awful practice.
Just a bit.
And I definitely think when the developer straight up says, I don't care about this game on this platform anymore, you shouldn't keep selling it to that platform, especially in the case of when it's a multiplayer-focused title.
Yeah. At least if it was a single-player game, then you could maybe kind of sort of argue that there's a continued reason that people would want to enjoy it, bugs and all, but a multiplayer game not getting support. And let's face it, the insanely overwhelming majority of these early access games are multiplayer games.
Oh, exactly. I myself, I like early access. I'm kind of if anyone who watches this podcast hasn't figured it out, I'm a bit of a nerd. I like to watch a game develop. I like seeing it from the early stages and how it progresses and how much the developer can really put work into their game. And we've seen games that have started out really, really rough to points where they're playable now. An example, Ark is an example of a game that started out really, really bad. And they somehow, through everything that game went through, have still managed to turn it around, have a decent console game, and have a good player base. So I think the program is good, especially for developers that have really ambitious ideas, but it's hard to either pitch the idea because it's never been done before, or they just financially cannot do it.
Right, because game development costs are going up. That's the bitter reality of
You just have to look at game studio outputs. I was reading an article earlier, and it was talking about how someone was arguing in a forum post that games don't cost game developers. It may cost them more, but they make less games. The amount of money that Sony punched out for, I think they published 17 titles last year. It cost them more than when they released 87 games in 2011.
Damn.
So costs are insane, and it comes with that whole territory where everyone has a graphical expectation and a polish expectation, and those kind of games aren't cheap. So game preview allows developers with ambitious ideas, or even what I'm going to say, hard to pitch ideas.
Yeah.
Because like a game like Ark would be hard to it would be hard to pitch to a publisher because of how ambitious it is. Like there is games that have had really good pitches and have been picked up by big studios. You have to look at Studio MDHR. They didn't go through game preview to get that game out. They went to Microsoft, and Microsoft was like, "We love this game.
Right.
We want to fund the development." But not everyone's so lucky. So the preview program offers developers that option. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to talk a little bit about good practices versus bad practices in game preview. There's a couple of easy do's and don'ts with game preview, basically. A couple of good practices is, in my opinion, keeping your player base updated to what's going on. A constant stream of updates is a good idea. Anywhere from an update every month to an update every couple of weeks is good. Even if it's just small, it shows dedication to the game. How about you guys? What do you like to see in an early access title? Like positives that give you faith in the developers going forward? Because when you buy an early access game, it comes down to a lot of faith in the developers that they're going to polish it, they're going to finish it, and sometimes that doesn't work out. What gives you guys that comfort feeling when it comes to early access games?
Consistent updates, at least.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
Be actively showing that you're working on it. Like one thing the Deep Rock Galactic Twitter account does fantastically is they actively show new animations that they're doing, or what they have planned coming up, or what new content they're going to drop, or what they want to hear from fans to see in the game itself. They're very interactive, but if you just kind of sit there and put an update out a month or two in between and just kind of sit there and not really do much else, you're not going to go very far.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with anything Rage just said. I have to agree. The fact is, don't get me wrong, with an early access game, your first impression matters, but people are going to be willing, at least I think, I would hope, when they're playing an early access or a game preview title, to forgive some initial problems. The initial performance or resolution or just the overall look and play of the game is going to matter less than how attentive the developers are. How often are they engaging with the fans? Are they doing AMAs on Reddit? Are they showing their roadmap for what they want to do? Do they have a stated goal for what the game is eventually supposed to be and how they're going to get there? Just that's what I would look for. That's what gives me encouragement.
See, I'll be the first one to say PUBG's performance on console it's been rough. That's obvious to everyone. It's not going as fast as everyone would hope. They're giving consistent updates, and it's better than it was at launch for sure.
Oh, much better. Much better.
But in a way of being able to sell it to a wider audience, the game is still very, very rough. But I think PUBG Corp did a fantastic job with them, like with Brendan Green sitting down and giving a PC roadmap and an Xbox roadmap for development.
Mm-hmm.
And giving timelines for when they want to hit specific targets and goals. Whether they hit those targets or goals, that remains to be seen. But so far, they've been very consistent with the updates. They've been very transparent with the issues. Even that Digital Foundry piece where they did the comparison, they had Brendan Green on paper stating that he wishes that the Xbox development was going faster and that they were looking into hiring more developers and everything else to speed up the process, because obviously it's important to them after just this week them hitting the 5 million player on Xbox milestone. So I think a roadmap like that is really important. I know a lot of devs can't do that because then it starts giving your fan base, it's like promising your fan base something. So if you don't deliver, the pressure gets a lot more. But I think that level of transparency with your fans is really important.
Right.
I think that was one of the downsides the Studio Wildcard had with Ark Survival, is their inability to hit deadlines. They're notorious for missing deadlines and promising things and taking, like they said they were bringing a perfect example of this is they were going to bring private servers to Xbox One, where you could have your own private server with your friends and everything else, and basically rent a server like you would on any other PC game.
Yeah.
And they said it was coming. I think I'll use an example. They said it was coming in January. It didn't end up coming till like May, essentially.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was the worst part about it is tons of people were asking about it and they weren't responding about it either.
Right. See, that's the thing. People can understand a delay if it happens, but be honest about it. Just say, hey, all right, look, this sucks, but this is our reality in terms of development. Like, that was actually something. Do you mind if I just spin off into a little non-early access example? I don't know if either of you guys have played Total War Warhammer. Have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, the developers have this huge, massive, ambitious thing going on called the Mortal Empires, where they're fusing all the different games that come out into just one ridiculous map. And they kept on delaying the addition of some races, these Norse monster slayers and stuff that people were really looking forward to. And people were like, well, what's going on here? And they just typed up a big blog post saying, look, this sucks, but the reality is we kind of screwed ourselves and our code is conflicting and it's going to take us a couple of months to figure this out. It sucks. It got really technical for people who don't understand that thing, but I appreciate that level of transparency, that kind of honesty of saying, look, we goofed up. We did something really dumb here and we're sorry, but this is what we're doing to fix it. That's the type of approach developers should be making.
I agree. And my biggest problem, and I don't mean to specifically target Studio Wildcard, but they certainly did some things, like there was lawsuits and things they had to deal with and the reason they needed more money and whatnot. But one of the worst game preview things you should not do is sell DLC and season passes before your game is out of game preview.
I'd never seen it before, and I was playing Ark really actively at the time, and it was like, hey, there's a DLC. What the hell are they doing?
It's like, even understanding the extenuating circumstances that they were in, which I don't envy them. It must have sucked, but still, it's like, it's not a good look at the end of the day.
The worst part is it actually did pretty well. Like, they sold quite a few copies of that DLC.
That was because that DLC was, as much as I want to give them flack for selling DLC on an early access title, it was really, really well done DLC. They added some really cool stuff.
And you know,
they did go out of their way to make it like really cool stuff. And whatnot, but
I was just going to bring up easily the modding community for that game too on PC has been a substantial influence in keeping it alive too. Some of the things that people do for that game is absolutely cool, and the graphical quality that they can run it at, amazing.
Oh yeah, like for sure. Like I don't play Ark personally on console, but when I build my PC, that's definitely going to be a game I look at because it runs amazingly on on PC. It just the problem that people a lot of these bigger survival games have is CPU bottlenecking, because consoles have notoriously bad CPUs, and a lot of these games run on very CPU heavy engines. That's the problem that they're having with PUBG right now. Is that specific variation of that engine, it requires heavy CPU usage. And let's face it, those Jaguar chips that we've got in the Xbox One and PS4 just don't handle that well.
No, they don't. I mean, it's taken Microsoft doing some custom silicon work on like the X and then heavily upclocking it simply to make some games run at 60 frames, and it's still nowhere near ideal in terms of how many can.
Yeah, exactly. And like the X helps out to an extent, but at the same time, game previews is viable for people of all generations of Microsoft consoles. So if it only runs well on the X, I feel like there should be a disclaimer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I was watching my friend play PUBG on his like OG Xbox, and that it is not a good look, and that is something going forward they have to handle.
I believe it.
But for sure, I definitely think there's been a lot of positives in the early access side of things, and I really have to give Microsoft credit when it comes to their game preview. They really curated well. They do not flood it with games. They have a very good system of what they're willing to put on the platform, which is part of the problem that Steam has with its early access program, is the fact that it's so wildly unmanaged.
It's gotten ridiculous on Steam. I mean, I think Microsoft could do a better job with their curation, that they could clean a few things up a bit and how they handle some stuff, but it's infinitely better than Steam. It's gotten to the point now on Steam where indie developers have flat out stated that they would much rather release on the Switch or the PS4 or the One, just anything other, simply because if they release a game on the Steam, it's just going to get buried.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just kind of a weird situation you have, because there's so many games that are out there, and we don't really see it because majority of us are console gamers, so we don't really see some of the stuff that goes on with some of the Steam Greenlight games. But I was talking to one of my PC friends last night, and he was talking about that there's some games that are in early access that have been out since 2013, and they're still in early access. A perfect example, I think it's Rust, is coming out of early access. It's been in there for almost 4.5 years.
A long time.
Jeez.
4.5 years in early access, and people are saying it doesn't run any better than it used to before.
That's disappointing. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is like there's so many unique games that come through game preview, but I'm glad they go through game preview because they have that chance to change the game. A perfect example is the Darwin Project. I got to play a little bit of that.
How was it?
It's good. It's a good base work. The survival elements in a battle royale game certainly make it interesting. I was in this situation where I was being chased by a guy with an axe, but I was also freezing to death. So I had to try to like run around a fire so I wouldn't freeze to death and he wouldn't murder me. It's an interesting game. It needs to have some more weapon variety. It feels very limited right now. I'm sure that's something they'll address going forward. There's some game balancing issues. The director, which makes the game, it's such an interesting thing. It needs some balancing for sure, because the director can just single out certain players and just completely ruin their experience with the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is the main thing with a game like that, is you want to be able to appeal to the casual market. And if someone just fires up their first game and then gets focused out by a specific thing and then just gets repeatedly focused out, it sucks.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a good groundwork, and the developers are working on a roadmap, so we'll see where it goes, kind of deal. Now, here comes the tough question. What do you think is the worst early access title that you guys can think of?
Like specifically on game preview or both? Or
let's do one for Xbox game preview and we'll do one for PC because the PC's got a couple of really notorious ones you can pick from.
Oh geez. See, the thing is, I don't like singling anybody out, even if a developer didn't support it properly. I guess the one I would say that would really sort of annoy me is DayZ. The fact, mainly because it was such an incredibly successful game. It sold like 400,000 copies within week 1, and then it blew up in the months after that. It became a Steam phenomenon for almost an entire year. So money was not the problem with finishing that game, with getting it out of early access. But does anyone want to take a gander and guess when DayZ came to early access on Steam?
2010.
When did
2013?
Oh God!
Yeah, it's still in early access, and it's just how well it sold. It sold well over 3 million copies. Most of those were pretty much immediate, and yeah, that one just really annoys me due to how everything has been handled. So that's what I'd have to say.
DayZ has a really interesting development history. And I say interesting just in the fact that because anyone that knows basically what happened with DayZ was they had the game. It was an Arma 3 mod, very similar to what PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is. And what ended up happening is the head designer signed a bunch of contracts, which also was to bring it to PS4 and things along those lines. And after they signed all these contracts and they got all this money, he basically went off the map. He just dropped off the face of the planet.
Seems like that was something that would happen.
There was a bunch of lawsuits. There was the dev team was getting blamed for this developer's splitting. There's a bunch of just really ugly stuff that if you worked for the company is not something you'd want to have to deal with per se.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate because they had a really good ground rule, and now they're saying that they're trying to push DayZ out on console for this year, which honestly, it's going to be a nightmare, to be brutally honest. Because if you think PUBG runs bad, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, you haven't seen it.
Because because as far as I know, I'm not a games developer by any stretch of the imagination, but DayZ doesn't run on Unreal Engine, because you know how PUBG runs on Unreal Engine, technically speaking. It's a base off of an Arma mod, but it technically runs on Unreal Engine. DayZ actually runs in the Arma engine, which they've never been able to get to run on console. Because I remember back in 2015, they had talked about there was a publisher that wanted to bring Arma 3 to console. And basically the developers just laughed. Because Arma is one of the most demanding games, even to run baseline on a PC. It's something to do with the engine. You have to have a pretty decent GPU and a pretty decent CPU. So it's really demanding. So I don't think it would, especially when you start talking base model Xbox One and PS4. I don't know. It's hard to say with game preview. Like, there's been a couple of really good games, but do the good games really outweigh the bad games, in your opinion?
In game preview, yes. I would say overall. Overall, I would say yes, because you've had a lot of success stories. You've had games that, yes, it took Ark forever, but it did get better. PUBG is improving slowly but steadily. It's gotten better. Yeah. Nick, you and I both know that firsthand. And then you've got things like the Darwin Project and Deep Rock Galactic, which Deep Rock Galactic, I haven't played it, but I have watched quite a bit of gameplay. It seems to be the most polished game to have arrived on
It's
Game
very
Preview.
polished.
It's extremely polished. I mean, don't get me wrong; it still crashes occasionally. There's bugs or visual glitches, but
yeah,
they've done a really good job with that, and so I'm very hopeful for how they'll be moving forward with that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
yeah, I think
it's definitely one of the most polished Game Preview games that I've seen released.
So overall, I think as far as Game Preview is concerned, the benefits outweigh the negatives for now, but Microsoft really needs to be careful about curating it because they need to keep a positive reputation. Frankly, in my opinion, a game coming to Game Preview should be a big deal. It should be a big event with like a blog post and them explaining what the goals and the roadmap are.
Yeah, for sure. Because the big thing that separates the PC and the console market, in my opinion anyway, is sometimes console players aren't as well informed as the PC market can be. And I don't mean that as a slant against console players or anything along those lines. It's just as a general rule of thumb, if you're running $1,000 PC, you generally have a pretty good knowledge of what you're getting yourself into. But someone who buys an Xbox One or a PS4 for Madden and Call of Duty and then picks up, well, you can't pick up Game Preview games on PS4, but that's a whole different
that's another discussion altogether.
That's another discussion altogether. But you just have to basically protect your player base while supporting developers. Mainly.
Yep.
What about you, Rage? Do you think the good to bad ratio is good, bad, or?
Yeah, I think it's specific. So for Xbox Game Preview, I think there's way more good than there has been bad that's come out of the program. But for the whole Steam Early Access and the Steam Greenlight program, not so much. It's the other way around. I think there's very few gems in that pile that tends to be, 300 to 400 game inflated list of indie titles that you have no idea are good or not. So yeah, it's really specific for me and the platform.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think just because of the mass and how easy it is to develop for PC, they're obviously going to have more of an issue there. And Steam definitely needs to curate their Greenlight program a lot better because it definitely feels like they pretty much let anything on there.
Yeah, exactly. Which they kind of do.
Yeah. And in all honesty, every game should, go through a test before it gets published on your platform. That's just my own personal belief. So yeah, that pretty much going to cover Game Preview and Early Access topic-wise. All in all, I think it's a good thing, especially if the developers are really passionate about their game and they want to bring it to market. It's really good, and as long as people are clear. And I think pricing is a huge thing, too, with Game Preview titles. It's really cool, like, even with Ark, where it was like $30, and the full price game is $60. Games like Darwin Project, Subnautica, Deep Rock Galactic all being like $20. I think that's really, really smart because especially if it's going to be a $60 game at the end of it, there's nothing like getting a game at the third of the price and it'll eventually be a finished product. I've actually, with some games I'm really interested in, an example, We Happy Few. In early access when it first came out, it was rough, really rough around the edges. But I got it at $24, and now I'm going to sit on it till it officially launches, and then I will play the game, which is slated for summer 2018, I believe. But I have no problem picking up the game, supporting the developer, and then waiting till later to play the game. I definitely think I don't know. I think Game Preview is good if it's held by the right people, basically. So we'll segue into the next topics, which there's been a ton of leaks this week in regards to what's going to be at E3. Since there's been so many leaks, I'm going to hand it off to you guys. I want you guys to pick a leak that stuck out to you personally that you're excited for. We'll start with Rage.
I've been trying so hard not to watch that God of War leaked footage. I've been trying really hard, but I ended up watching just a couple minutes, and that really has me excited. I know that I'm pretty sure that's just the basic tutorial in that video, but man, it looks wonderful. It has me really excited for God of War coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And there's been a little bit of drama going around that because apparently that was a media source that leaked that.
Oh dear.
Apparently, from what I was reading, people were responding to Cory Balrog about it. Or how I always pronounce his name wrong. I feel so bad.
Barlog. Cory Barlog. He says he's been called Balrog so many times. It's ridiculous.
I feel awful for it, but people were responding to him and how it sucked that someone would betray their trust and etc. So it's sounding like they let a couple of people in to play the game early. It's no secret that they did. I remember I saw God, what's the guy's name? Robin Gaming. I can't remember his channel's name, but he got access and played 2 hours. So they let some influencers play the game and whatnot, but they were under NDA. Someone decided to break the NDA and release the footage, which really sucks for the developers. It's really awesome because the gameplay that was showing was really, really good. So that's definitely an upside for Sony Santa Monica, but really sucks when you bring people in to see your game and you're like, hey, don't show this to anybody. And they're like sitting there nodding as they're recording your game. And then you find out 24 hours later, it's on YouTube.
Yeah. And there's no stopping it now.
Yeah, pretty much. There's rumor right now that there's going to be an official gameplay trailer, like a 20-minute gameplay trailer that Sony Santa Monica is going to release in the next week or two.
If so, I'll be staying away from it. I'm going in blind. Or as blind as is possible, because I've watched the previous trailers. So,
see, I didn't watch that last trailer, the story trailer. And I only watched about 2 minutes of this trailer because I was like, I need to see it just a little bit. But definitely, I think, regardless, I think the game is going to be good. It sucks that it was leaked the way it was, but it's driving more and more interest to the game. And I really have to give Sony credit. They are really, really, really pushing the marketing on this game.
Yeah, they are. And they need to be, frankly, because it's a big shift for the series. I mean, let's be honest. Go back and look at like God of War 3 or God of War 2 or Ascension, and then go look at the new stuff for this. It's practically a reboot, except there's Kratos.
Yeah.
Which, frankly, I think the series needed it.
Oh, I 100. After Ascension, they need to do something.
Right.
And I'm so glad this is the direction they went with. And there's a lot of people that are saying that, it's just a Last of Us clone or whatever. It's just following that quote unquote Sony standard for first party.
Well, it does have the Sony boost, the trademark Sony boost.
Oh my God.
That is funny.
If
that
you say
was kind of ridiculous.
Funny thing, if you stare into the mirror and say Sony boost 3 times, Anchorman shows up behind you. But
I mean, that aside, I don't really get the complaints. I really don't.
I can understand it. Okay, I'm gonna give a little background on the series. I'm a huge God of War fanboy. It was why I bought PlayStation consoles. I was a teenager at this point, so you can imagine how a super edgy, angry guy that's pissed off at everything appeals to like 14, 15-year-old boy. Like it was really good for the space I'm in. However, at the age of almost 25 now, I don't think I would enjoy those games as much as I did then. And it's really cool. And it's going to sound super fanboyish, but it's really, really cool when a series grows with you. And it's really cool in the aspects of God of War for me because it really suited who I was back then. And now the game suits the games that I really like now. And it feels like a jump of it feels like a jump to something I'd really love, and I'm overly excited about it for that reason. But that's just me. I love watching games do something different and take a risk, and I really hope, with all the marketing and all the awesome stuff Sony's doing with it, I really hope this game finds a larger audience.
I think it will. I don't think it can't at this point.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. They're marketing the crap out of it.
And I feel good because I always felt, as a PlayStation fan back in the day, I always felt like Kratos was like the most neglected PlayStation character, because like the games never got like insane marketing or anything like that, and it makes me warm and fuzzy on the inside when I see Kratos everywhere. I'm not gonna lie. And my current fanboy audience is so confused right now. They're like, he's an Xbox guy, but he's talking about how good God of War is. I have a lot of passion for the series, and when you hear the developers talk about the game and how much they love it and everything else, it's infectious to me. So I'm definitely looking forward to that game. Sam, what was your big E3 leak that you're looking forward to personally?
In terms of confirmed leaks, because we've been getting stuff all year. When you go back to the Reset era forum leak with the user Clobreel, who leaked all the Microsoft API stuff, there's been a lot of stuff this year. So in terms of more recent events, I would definitely have to say the Splinter Cell listing. Please, please, let it not be a mistake. That. I mean, if it's a listing just for like a remastered Splinter Cell title, I think I may actually cry, because that series has been gone way too long at this point.
It's got to come back like God of War has. It has a big, bold, and a whole new game and a whole new tech put into it.
It's please, we need it. Splinter Cell.
You need it.
Oh, Anchor, get out of the chat, God of Snore, Dad Bod of War.
Don't feed the troll. Do not feed the troll.
Do not feed the troll under the bridge. Do not feed the troll under the bridge. Yeah, so Sam pretty much took my favorite, because anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge stealth nut. I love Metal Gear, Hitman, and Splinter Cell are basically in my top 5 franchises. So like there's 3 out of my 5 favorite franchises are stealth games. So that gives you a little insight into what kind of games I like. But there's one thing I hope they don't do with Splinter Cell that I'm worried they're going to do with Splinter Cell.
Which is?
Open world.
Oh, you know they will. That's
Please don't.
Look at the Ubisoft trends over the last few years.
No, I don't need Ghost Recon Wildlands with a Sam Fisher skin, damn it.
That's honestly what it would end up probably being like. I would really like it just to have it level-based, like it always has been. But like you just said, if it was turned out to be open world, I would just see it as Ghost Recon Wildlands is with Ghost Recon skin. Or objective and playstyle. That's basically all it is. Because you could do everything, almost everything, climb buildings and that crap.
Yeah.
Wildlands, like.
See what I'd like, if I was to make my fan-made Splinter Cell game, and like once again, fan-made. I have no ideas what sell, but if Ubisoft wanted to sell this game to just me, do it like Hitman. Have big, like a big open map for like, don't make it so linear, but give you like options on how to play.
Right. Like, hey, here's this map. Here's you. You've got these targets. Figure it out.
Exactly. I don't want it to go full Metal Gear Solid 5. That game was really, really good. I'm not going to lie. I'm enjoying playing it right now. But I just don't think Splinter Cell needs to be in the open world trend, because I don't need another open world game to get burnt out on. I see it happening, though. It's Ubisoft's trend, but at the same time, I can't even get mad if they made it an open world game, for the simple reason is they do really, really good open world games. I've completed 2 Ubisoft open world games this year back to back, and I did not feel burnt out on open world games, which is bizarre. I really enjoyed Watch Dogs 2, and I really enjoyed Ghost Recon. So I can't even knock Ubisoft in that aspect if they did make it open world.
They do it pretty well.
Yeah, they do open world pretty well. Where are some of the other leaks? We got the Tomb Raider leak. Anyone excited for that game?
I am. I've loved the rebooted game.
Yeah.
I've loved them. Need to go back and play Rise, actually. But yeah, I mean, the 2013 reboot, I thought it was fantastic, you know, centering Lara Croft, making her a lot more realistic and just grounding her emotionally, if that makes sense. Like, no, she's not this impossible archaeologist who somehow knows everything to do and handles 2 guns with ease. She's actually a scared young woman, even though she's incredibly intelligent. She's thrown into a survival situation. And yeah, so I'm extremely excited to see where they go with this.
Yeah, I'm a horrible human being. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I got 3/4 of the way through it, got super addicted to it, and then I can't remember the game that came out. I think it was Halo. Was it Halo 5? It was something big. It was a big Xbox title, and I uninstalled it and forgot about it. So I reinstalled it this week and planning on finishing it off. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it, and with Rise of the Tomb Raider being on Game Pass, I'm going to give that a shot. I picked up the Seasons Pass because the Seasons Pass was on sale for like $5 a couple of weeks ago. So I got all the DLC to play with it too. It's really, really cool. I'm with it. It's cool that we have an action adventure game that's so well done, especially since if you don't have a PlayStation, you can't play Uncharted. You have
right. This is kind of the next best thing. So
this is definitely the next best thing, and both of these games are insanely high caliber and well developed, and they're just really well put together. So that's definitely an exciting one. I guess we should talk about The Division 2. Anyone picking that up?
Oh, yes.
I'm going to be 100% honest here. I played the beta for the first one, and it doesn't grab me. The setting is just, I don't find it inspiring. It's just, I think of all the other types of games not in that setting, but those types of games, and it's just, no, I'm not really into it. I don't want to wander the streets of New York. It's not appealing to me. So it's seriously going to depend on what they do, like what the trailer shows, what the plans are, because they can't just do the first one over again. But I will say, I have to give Ubisoft props. They commit to their service titles in a way no one else does. They are the industry leader in that regard. The way they turned around Rainbow Six Siege, The Division, and For Honor is astounding. Just all 3, bam, bam, bam. Ghost Recon Wildlands is doing well. So I will definitely be paying attention to it. I will definitely keep my eyes open. And if it's appealing, then yeah, I'll grab it.
Yeah, we're hitting this point with Ubisoft where I'm not going to say they can do no wrong, but they've been hitting home runs lately. Like,
they've been pretty consistent. It's
like it used to be like I remember back in like 2013, 2014, be like, oh boy, here comes another broken Ubisoft game, guys.
Yeah,
and now it's like,
I think that starting like with Assassin's Creed Origins, not starting with, but they have really taken that feedback to heart. They don't want to be known as the company putting out broken games with terrible servers. They're taking steps to fix those issues.
Yeah, for sure. And I admire when companies take the criticism and you see results from that criticism.
Yeah.
And Ubisoft has done a fantastic job in regards to that. And I'm really hopeful for them going forward. They've got a ton of great IP that they can play with, and I really do hope that Splinter Cell leak is true. At this point, I think there's no denying it. It would not feel like a console generation if we didn't have a Splinter Cell game.
Yeah, seriously. Although, I mean, I don't know. We say that, and yet we may actually go this generation without getting a new Grand Theft Auto or a new Elder Scrolls. So,
You stop.
Just saying.
You stop that.
I'm just saying.
You stop that.
It's
saying.
possible.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remaster leaked in Italy. For US conversion, it's $25 from the Italian price. So that probably put as a standalone expansion for $30.
Yeah.
If they sell it.
So they realize that people don't appreciate them bundling it with the higher, like the more expensive version of the new Call of Duty game, and then requiring that you keep that one installed. They figured that one out, huh?
Man, I was so mad. Okay, so I'm gonna tell this story. So I bought Infinite Warfare and the COD 4 bundle day one, at GameStop, because literally all I did is I took it home, I installed COD 4, and I took the game disc back for Infinite Warfare and traded it in. And I thought I was the smartest cookie in the world. I thought I was like, I got you, Activision. And then I went to work, came home, booted it up. It's like, you need to have the Infinite War. I'm like, oh my God. I was so mad. So after trading it in, and I only got even though I traded it in basically the same day, I only got $50 back. So I had to drop another $30 to get the Infinite Warfare back, which
man.
I can't believe I had to pay for that twice. I'm so dumb. But yeah, Modern Warfare 2 remastered. I'm cool with it. I just hope they don't do the same thing they did with the COD 4 remaster, but I know they are.
They'll do something. They'll do it with COD World War II. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
They need to not take games that didn't have loot boxes in them and put them in.
See, that's my issue, right? Like, I enjoyed Modern Warfare 2. It was a great Call of Duty game. It was fantastic. Great campaign, solid multiplayer. And I might be tempted to pick it up, especially if they learn their lesson and make it standalone from the start, except for the fact that if they put that loot box nonsense in the multiplayer, I'm not touching it.
Yeah. And see, that was my problem, because with COD 4 Remaster, they added in loot boxes, and they were like, oh, don't worry, guys. It's just for cosmetics. And then it was like, oh, we've got weapons. I'm like, these weapons weren't in COD 4. They're like, but you can buy them. And I'm going to be real with you. The last Call of Duty I felt they did really good in the terms of microtransactions was Call of Duty Ghosts. Okay. And people can get mad as they want about it, but them adding DLC guns to the map packs, I was fine with. Because you bought the map pack, you got the 4 maps, and then you got the gun that came with that map pack. I didn't have to roll $300 worth of loot boxes to get that gun. And they have absolutely no moral integrity, because I'm not sure how often you guys have played any of the recent Call of Duties, but basically whenever they have a loot box based gun, it's broken. It's the strongest gun in the game. It's the strongest gun in the game. It destroys you, and you're like, oh man, that sucks. I wish I had that gun. But
I'm gonna buy that loot box so I can try to get that gun. Oh, I got that gun. Now they nerfed it. Now this new gun is it. Oh, now I gotta buy another loot box and try to get more, and then on goes the process.
Yep, it's an endless circle with Activision, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to change, because as Treyarch said, I think it was on Black Ops 3, they made 10 times the amount of money off loot boxes than they did the actual game sales. So that is not going to change anytime soon.
Surprising. Oh, man.
All right, so we had that. Other things coming out. Sonic Mania is getting a physical release.
Whoop, whoop.
With some DLC and stuff. So that's nifty if you're a Sonic fan and you're clinging to the Sega days. I don't think there was much else. You guys remember anything else? There was a lot of leaks this week. It seemed like there was a lot of holes in the ship this week as far as news.
Yeah, there was a lot of different stuff. There was a lot of different news. Let's see here. What was some
we could talk about Microsoft's move to the theater.
Oh, yeah. That was this week.
Yeah. It's interesting.
And what does that entail? Because it's very interesting, isn't it? Why are they... I'll be honest, if I was them in the first place, I wouldn't have even really showcased myself at E3, maybe the first year. Then I would have been like, okay, let's go to my theater right next door. It's much better than this place. I don't know why they're doing it now, but I'm glad they are.
Well, it's definitely interesting because it's another sign of companies realizing that they don't necessarily have to physically be at E3 per se, even though they're still calling it their E3 conference, and the Microsoft Theater is a stone's throw away. It's a 2 or 3 minute walk away from the E3 center where everyone gathers. So it's not like they're moving far away, but still, it's a very interesting move. Presumably, they have to have the stuff to show if they're going to be using this giant theater all to themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, there has to be something. They said they're going to have some gameplay demos there as well. People are going to go there and want to have a way to have a hands-on experience with the games. So they'll have that option there. It'll be like everything they probably have ever wanted to do for an E3 booth, plus more. So they have just no restricted access anymore. They can do whatever they want.
What does it matter? Xbox is just going to be a third-party app anyways. Who cares?
Oh, no. Let's not go there. Let's just not go there, okay?
Oh, man. We're going to touch on this because this was a topic I thought about, but for some reason, don't ask why, it's been a really bad week for me. I thought that was the week before. Like, this didn't happen this week, but with the conference size and everything else, you think there's going to be some really big things at E3, or are we just doing the usual Microsoft pre-hype up to get something that's kind of exciting but kind of not?
Okay, I'll say this. Here's what I'm going to say about it. Obviously there's one way to find out. They have to know. I mean, they chose this year to go to this theater. All right. They chose this year to break off from the main E3 building and say, nope, we're not going to do floor space. I mean, we're going to have a mixer booth, but that's it. There's just a mixer booth in the E3 center, and we're going to have our own theater where we're doing all our stuff. If you're doing that, you have to have the games to play. You have to have stations. You have to have stuff to show off. You can't fill it up with nothing. That would be nonsense. Microsoft is not, and Xbox specifically, is not immune to the memes. They know how people, for better or for worse, right or wrong, perceive them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's perception. Even if some things aren't true or there's more nuance to it, the way it is perceived is that Sony and Nintendo are putting out more better games. Is that true? Up to the individual gamer, but that's the general perception. So they're making this move to go to this theater where they're going to have more floor space than Sony or Nintendo combined, which is amusing when you consider that just a few weeks prior, people were mocking the leaked floor plans and their floor space, and these people who are mocking are the ones who are never going to go to E3. But that's another rant altogether that I don't want to get into. So let me say this. If Microsoft does not have surprises and they do not have things to show, then this will be the single dumbest thing they've ever done. And I say that with the launch of the Xbox One in 2013 in mind. Oh. That's my little rant on the subject. They have to have something to show. They have to have at least some neat surprises. It doesn't mean they have to bring the house down. I'm not saying that. It just means they have to have some cool stuff to show off that is beyond the, oh, we got some game preview games, because that's fantastic. I love these game preview games. I think it's fantastic that they're giving developers a chance to do stuff like that on their platform, but nevertheless, they know what people want. They know what people need. They know what they need. That's my little bit on the subject.
I'm going to talk about, I still don't have the screenshot. There's a leak on 4chan. One of the most horrible places.
No, but let's just put out a disclaimer here. 4chan is 4chan. So,
yeah.
But
4chan is 4chan. I'm not believing any of this. It's an interesting perspective on things, however. Playground Studios isn't actually working on Fable. Fable's still in pre-production. Apparently, according to this quote-unquote insider, that Playgrounds is actually polishing up Scalebound for a 2018 a 2019 spring release.
Man, of all the things I don't believe that the most.
Yeah, I'm saying here, like, I know they've got groundwork for the game. I know they own the IP, and I know they own all the work that Platinum did on that game. And I don't doubt that Playground could turn that into something great. I just don't see it happening. Like,
no,
I don't like the insider that leaked it. To give you a little background information on the guy and why I'm kind of suspicious of it. This is the same guy that leaked State of Decay 2's release date a couple of months before. He nailed Sea of Thieves release date. What else did he? There was another one he nailed too. Oh, he nailed OGBC back pre-E3 last year. So he's got a fairly decent track record, but I don't know. It'd be great to see because one of the biggest presses that Microsoft has is closing studios and canceling games. That's a really bad thing, reputation they picked up in 2016/2017. And if they were to come out and say, well, Scalebound's coming out 2019, that kind of kills that whole all Microsoft does as far as it goes, like just the reputation they have for that. I think that'd be a smart move. I don't think they're doing it, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If they could somehow revive Scalebound in some way, it would be phenomenal. It would be a great show of support. I would love to see that happen. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's realistic.
For sure. And the rest of this guy's list is actually really, really solid, actually.
Well, what is it? Just for the heck of it, since we're going over
Just for the heck of it, Rare's going to announce a roadmap of what the expansions are going to look like for the next year for Sea of Thieves.
That's not shocking at all. I mean, I think we can all guarantee that's happening.
Yeah.
They said the first big expansion for Sea of Thieves is coming 3 months after launch. That puts it at after E3 ends. That puts it at the 17th of June. So, yeah, they'll absolutely be showing the expansion.
I think they'll be Rare will be there to pitch the expansion and more content going forward, which is really awesome. They say Rare's working on a Banjo-Kazooie 20th anniversary. Something to do with Banjo-Kazooie's 20th anniversary. He didn't say whether it was a remaster or a reboot or...
Well, now, can I just give a quick plug here? Because of something that's extremely relevant. I actually got to interview Craig Duncan recently about Sea of Thieves and about Rare as a whole, their studio and their climate, the culture there. And so please check that out on TICGN.com. We have the interview up on Podbean. And I did get to ask about Banjo-Kazooie and the fact that it's the 20th anniversary this year. As for his answer, well, you'll have to listen, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually listening to that part, and it was interesting how he kind of sidestepped around it. It's interesting. Everyone should give that a listen and take your opinions from there on it. It's going to be in the link in the description of this video. But Rare, I'll give you a roadmap and maybe doing something for Banjo. I definitely don't think those are unrealistic. There's something about, I can't remember the studio name. Apparently, Perfect Dark is getting a reboot, which I would be another game series that I'm 100% okay with.
That was in the Reset Era leak from the user club reel this year, so that's not surprising.
But the interesting thing is he says it's coming this year.
That would be... No, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, see, there's some things I can jive with. There's just other parts that I can't. And like Microsoft coming in June and being like, "Hey, we're dropping this game that's a reboot of one of the biggest franchises we own." in 2 months just doesn't seem realistic. And if they try reboot Perfect Dark and drop it in holiday season,
no,
Lord,
I could maybe squint my eyes and believe like a May 2019 release. Maybe I could maybe dance with you there, but not this year.
Really, so much room at the holiday time this year now.
Yeah. Holiday's gonna be packed. You're gonna have like the Division 2 most likely, and oh god, there's gonna be so many games dropping. It's gonna be hard for them all to compete with each other.
Yes.
What else was there? There was one other thing I'm trying to find. There it was. Microsoft not announcing. Everyone's saying they're buying Sega. That's not happening. Announcing a partnership with Sega, which will see a huge slew of Sega games hit BC, as well as a IP coming out in 2019 in a group effort. Which
okay, I could the boldest prediction in the world. So all right.
I could jive with it just in the fact that they're not outright saying that Microsoft's buying Sega, because it's.
No, that's not.
It seems more plausible than any other reasons out there, really.
It's just amazing, especially with the past few weeks. It's been insanely noticeable. There's so much buzz with Microsoft in regards to, like, we had the whole them buying EA rumor, them buying this rumor, them buying this rumor. They're making this game. They're developing that. They've got so many projects under wraps right now. People really want to know what it is. And there's so much buzz about it with what they're working on, because everybody knows they're trying to fix this narrative that they've had to deal with for the past, I'm going to say 2 years, roughly. And there's a lot of buzz generating around it, and there's not a lot of talk about what Sony's doing for E3 right now, which is interesting, because I think they still have a lot of good games going forward. We've got Death Stranding, we've got Last of Us 2.
I think, if you don't mind me interjecting my 2 cents here, I think it's going to be very similar to the 2017 show, in that there's probably going to be a surprise of some sort. Like, it would not be unrealistic to see that Ico is getting the Shadow of the Colossus treatment, or Demon Souls is being remastered, something along those lines, some sort of third-party partnership. But I think the majority of it is, like it, love it, or hate it, Sony revealed starting back in 2016 everything that they were working on for this gen. We'll get to see gameplay from those games. Like, we'll get to see more stuff from Days Gone, probably a release window. We'll get to see probably some actual gameplay from The Last of Us Part 2. Cross your fingers, pray we might actually see gameplay from Death Stranding. You see what I'm saying? I think it's going to be deep, or Ghost of Tsushima as well. That's another one. We'll see deep dives into these games that we know about.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm perfectly okay with that. And that's how Sony has done this gen. And it's a great way of doing it. And there's just, I don't think, and keep in mind, I was fairly casual through the 360 era. I don't think there's a year that's been, like, 2017 was insane when it came to games. This year, I don't even know how.
It's nuts.
Like, there's every week
there's so much
something coming out that I want, and I'm like, I can't justify buying it. Like, Kingdom Come Deliverance came out, and I was like, okay, well, I'll have tons of time to beat that. And then it's like Ni no Kuni 2 is coming out, and Sea of Thieves is coming out, and like
Far Cry 5 in that same window.
Like, literally, like, it's the 17th right now. Between now and the 27th. You have Ni no Kuni 2, Sea of Thieves, Far Cry, and God, there's something else too that I'm missing. Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel awful about it too, but there's a ton of games in the next 10 days. This is March. This is
I know.
And when you think about the big games coming out this fall, like, we got Red Dead 2, we know Battlefield 5 will release sometime in October. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is going to be in October for the first time, which is incredible. You know, Spider-Man still needs a release date for some time this year. So does Dreams. So does Crackdown 3, though I think we can all agree that's probably July. Metro Exodus and Soul Calibur 6 are both giant games that are still slated for this year somewhere. So it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
And it sounds horrible, but I kind of miss the slow pace of games we used to have, because I used to basically how I used to buy games was I'd buy all the holiday releases because there were so many of them, and then I'd spend the whole spring playing through those holiday releases. Now there's no gap, which is absolutely amazing. There's so much software coming out for these consoles. It's insane. Well, like on Xbox, all the ID at Xbox games have been coming out the past few weeks. They're just churning them out, and then they've got another 18 they announced they're coming. PS4, every time I boot that thing up, there's something new feature in the store, and I'm like, holy cow, how did I miss this? And I'm like, oh god. It's just endless, and it's a great issue to have, honestly. Because to be frank, in like 2013 and 2014, I never felt a reason to upgrade to Xbox One and PS4 initially. When they first came out, just the software output wasn't there, but they've definitely stepped up the software end of things now, and third parties are churning out games, first parties are churning out games. It's literally insane. It's hard to imagine how these games are still doing so well, given how many games are coming out, and there's so many different games for different people. Like, I sit there with like Spider-Man. I'm like, literally, if it doesn't release in August, it's got stiff competition all the way from September up.
Yeah,
easily. And like the summer feels like the last little gap we've got in games. Like July and August, there's not a lot slated right now. I say right now because God knows what's going to happen at E3.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's almost confirmed that Bethesda's dropping a game this year.
Yeah, it's jeez.
Well, these are doing at least 1 to 2 games a year.
Yeah, and that's something I appreciate some of these studios are doing, especially Bethesda, and like it's Crystal Dynamics that does Tomb Raider, correct?
Crystal Dynamics, although for a first time, Eidos Montreal is actually going to be helping them out. They're like another of Square Enix's studios. They're the studio that used to handle Deus Ex. They are supporting Crystal Dynamics with this, and the vice versa is true for the Avengers game.
Oh, that's really
nice.
Cool. Those are two very nice studios. I love Deus Ex.
Which, speaking of which, God only knows when the Avengers game comes out. That's got to be sometime next year, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think we might see a preview of it, maybe some in-engine footage. I don't think realistically anyone thinks that's coming out this year.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, God, that's another game I forgot about. Holy cow!
There's too many, man. You just can't.
And we all know that Arcane is going to drop something Prey related.
There's going to be some sort of small Prey related title, yeah, like Dishonored: Death of the Outsider type. Hopefully that comes out like late August, early September, maybe.
I could definitely see it landing there because let's face it, Arcane, Bethesda, that whole cluster of studios, they like walking into E3 and they just like dropping bombs. That's
which
all
I appreciate. I like that.
Oh, I do too. Like when Bethesda came out and was like, yeah, you guys are getting Wolfenstein 2, New Colossus, Evil Within 2, and what was the other game? There's a
Death of the Outsider.
Death of the Outsider. You're getting all 3 of these single-player games when everyone's in a big freak out about with multiplayer games overbalancing single-player games. And they're like, here's 3 single-player games.
Bam, bam, bam. There you
bam,
go.
bam, bam. And they all had release dates, and they all hit their release dates.
Yeah.
And Bethesda continues to impress me with how they handle that. And they never unveil things too soon. Like, they had that accidental leak of Wolfenstein 2. What was that? Spring? Was that the previous winter?
No, that was the previous E3 because there's this thing where when they unveiled Quake the reboot of Quake that they were doing, they had this going through like a Linux directory, and then Wolfenstein and Doom, all these games were listed there, and one file hadn't been opened yet. It was Wolfenstein like .exe, the new Colossus. So they actually teased it the entire full year before that.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah, they do a really good job on that. And they honestly, real talk, anyone hear Bethesda leaks before?
Fallout 4, and even then it was painfully obvious it was happening.
Yeah, Fallout 4, and I'm pretty sure that was a controlled leak too.
We may never know, but I mean, even then it wasn't a leak beyond Fallout 4 exists and it's set in Boston. That's it.
I remember there was a huge freak out where I live, because I live just outside Toronto. And there was a freak out because once Fallout 4 was announced in Boston, there was a huge freak out in the Toronto paper, because Bethesda had developers there taking photos of downtown. And people were sitting there going, because Boston's about a 6-hour drive away. So there was rumors floating around up here that there was going to be a Toronto DLC for Fallout 4, and I lost my marbles. I don't know why they were there taking photos. We never got a DLC like that.
Funny little anecdotal story on that, if you don't mind, that type of situation. Sucker Punch actually explained in some interviews that they've done regarding Ghost of Tsushima that they were really scared because they thought a year prior to them unveiling the game that they were going to get exposed, because they were constantly going out to the Japanese countryside and doing principal photography, taking photos and doing sketches out there, and they had people come out and recognize them. And so they were stunned that what they were working on didn't leak as a result of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely hard for these developers with the way social media and everything is, and just how everything is now. It's amazing that some studios still manage to pull it off.
Information travels quickly.
Yeah. Well, basically, from my understanding, especially with in regards to Bethesda, is there's insiders that are like, yeah, you can't get anything out of Bethesda, because basically, as far as I know, if you enter that building, you have to sign probably one of the most crippling NDAs.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where if you look at it, it's like the people who work for Bethesda's studios or ZeniMax's studios, I don't know if you've noticed this, they don't tend to go anywhere else. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but as a general rule, they tend to stay there and work there for a really long time.
Yeah, if you look at those studios, even if you look at Arcane, most of the people that have developed there, most of them start as interns and they stay there. That's where they work for the rest of their lives, or the rest of their life cycles. It's really funny because I saw Ken Levine tweet. He was the developer of BioShock. And he was like, I never realized how big my development team was, because I swear every indie game that comes out is done by an ex-BioShock developer. And it's true. The amount of games I see teased, it's like done by an ex-BioShock developer, and it's usually like someone who did sound for like BioShock 2 or something. But it's really interesting when you see how the industry shapes that way and what studios retain the developers. One of the studios that actually has one of the best developer retentions is Activision. Believe it or not, they have one of the best developer retentions, because they have a really good package and apparently they pay really well. And they treat their dev teams very, very well, which is absolutely surprising. So it's interesting to see, and definitely might have a talking point at some point down the road about studios. Might do an episode where we talk about our favorite studios and games. That might be an interesting topic down the line.
Sounds good.
So we're going to pretty much wrap up here. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about? Was there anything...
Not really, except buckle up. If this is how many leaks we've gotten before E3, then geez, we still have just under 3 months to go. It's going to get rough. This is going to be interesting. But I will say,
an exciting year, man.
I will say, as a result of that, this could be one of the most exciting E3s in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening. That's man, it's gonna be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have words for it right now. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to get a seatbelt installed on my computer chair because every time I open up my laptop, it's like news.
Well, it's nice to see this type of a healthy market in the gaming industry right now. And it hasn't degraded at all. And year after year, it just keeps going up and up and up and getting better and better. And this easily is turning out to be one of the best years in gaming history, I think, or at least in the past 10 to 15 years.
There has never been a time.
And very good content.
There has never been a time in gaming that I can think of. Correct me. People can correct me if I'm wrong, because yes, I am only 25, so I'm a young buck when it comes to this. But there's never been a time in gaming where all three console developers have been this healthy. And people can talk about, as far as sales numbers wise, Xbox may not be performing the same as PS4 and the Switch, but Microsoft is still making money hand over fist. The Xbox division is more profitable for them now. We're talking
than it's ever been.
Yeah, that's ever been. They've come out and said that. Like, it's not, the Xbox One is not outpacing the Xbox 360 anymore. But they're
still selling consoles.
They're still selling consoles. All you have to do to really understand this is there was a 3% difference. I remember talking to you, Sam, earlier in the week about this. There was a 3% sales difference between the Xbox One and Switch in January. 3%.
It's nuts.
And if I highly recommend people follow Matt Piscatella. He's a sales analyst for the video game industry. He does some incredible work, does some great videos and articles and on blog stuff on it. But he was talking about how he's never seen the industry overall, all things considered, this healthy as far as the console manufacturers are concerned. Because you're right. Sure, Nintendo has some catching up to do, but the Switch is on fire. The PS4 is the dominant leader, and the One has finally found its niche. Microsoft seems to finally have everything in order, or they're getting things in order with Game Pass. Every console is doing something unique, and that's really, really good.
Yeah, and Xbox is trying to do something completely different than PS4, and the Switch, Nintendo is doing Nintendo. And whether you like it or not, they seem to find success doing what they do. They do weird, funky things, and
like new funky mode.
Yeah. but real talk, like I am on paper as I have slandered the Switch nonstop since before it released, after it released.
The money is coming for you. You do realize this, right?
I know this. But let this be where I put myself on the record, where I may not buy a Switch because time constraints and everything else. But Nintendo has not made a console that provides you this much money, dollar for dollar value, since the GameCube. And that is real talk.
I agree.
I played the crap out of the GameCube when it had one. That was like all I played.
GameCube was my main console until I went to PS3.
Man, it was my main console until I went to the Xbox One, for freak's sakes, man. There was a huge gap for me. I was like, damn. I love that console. It was great. Playing the Metroid Prime games on that was my favorite.
Oh man, it's insane. And honestly, I'm going to touch on this too because it's kind of relates to how gaming as a whole has been blowing up. That whole Fortnite stream night where Ninja had Drake on and that rapper Travis Scott.
Travis Scott.
I saw Demi in the comments. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not exactly up on the newest hip hop artists. That blew up like 600,000 live viewers.
That's a lot of people.
$612,000 worth of subscribers for Ninja.
I was just gonna say he gained over 500,000 subscribers in a week when that happened.
Yeah, like cash for cash value that he on that one stream, he almost made $1 million on that one stream.
Astounding.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of Fortnite, but it makes me happy. And I've seen a few people be really, how do I say this, pissy about this. And they're talking about how he got lucky and blah 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 blah. I think it's really great when I see someone who's doing something they enjoy and it blows up for them. I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. I do not follow him, anything like that. But I'm genuinely happy. This dude made almost $1 million playing video games, and that's something I've dreamed about since I was like 6 years old.
Yep.
And if we continue to see things like this, and if gaming really hits the mainstream hard, and it seems to be, more people are gaming is not the taboo hobby it used to be. I can remember getting bullied in high school for playing video games. Now it seems like all the kids sit around, smoke their funky grass, and play Xbox and PlayStation now, and that seems to be the cool thing to do. And it's really cool to see the hobby blowing up the way it is. And I definitely don't think there's a downside to it. More money that gets pumped into gaming, the more games come out. It's a really healthy market. And I've never been this happy with the console generation. And going forward, I'm just really excited as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's just great. And it's going to be great because with the more people that get interest in gaming, it's going to grow our community. And yeah, there's going to be some jerks that get added to that community. There's going to be no lying about that. But it gives opportunities like podcasts and news sites. It gives us a whole different audience. And it's really cool. That's just kind of my last little bit there.
Great time to be a gamer. There's not a lack of things to play.
Pretty much. If anyone in the chat has any questions, throw them out now. I saw Tommy's question. What do y'all think about the 3 pretty big game releases next week? We've got A Way Out next Thursday. We got Sea of Thieves. We got Ni no Kuni 2. Anyone picking up any of those games?
Sea of Thieves. I am picking up Sea of Thieves. I'm keeping an eye on both A Way Out and Far Cry 5.
Well, Sam, it just so happens I will have a copy of A Way Out, so we can actually play if you want to give it a run.
Yeah, sounds good because I wouldn't have to purchase it to play with you. So,
which is insane. So if anyone wants to play A Way Out, just add me on Xbox and we can work this out. I heard that to get the 100% gamer score, you got to play through it twice. So there's 2 separate people that can benefit from me buying the game. And also don't forget, if you go to my Twitter profile, I'm giving away a copy of that game, which will be announced on the next podcast, which is exciting. So anyone can get that game and be able to co-op it with a friend without owning the game. So that's pretty groovy, and that's something that'd be really cool seeing co-op games going forward if that becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think we got any questions from the chat in regards to that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You guys got anything on the go you want to share?
No.
Live streams, anything like that?
Not really. Just thank you all for coming out here. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's great to see everyone stopping in.
The show without you guys.
It'd literally be just the 3 of us talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
Which I do on a regular basis anyway, so yikes. So I want to thank everyone for kind of tuning in. Some really exciting stuff coming to the channel. Tuesday, maybe in the morning. I've got some stuff going on Tuesday. So I won't be able to stream Sea of Thieves, but on Wednesday and through the rest of the week, on my Mixer, I'll be streaming Sea of Thieves. You'll probably catch me, Sam, Anchor, a few others on that stream as well. If you want to hop on Sea of Thieves with me, like I said, just follow me on Xbox. I'm usually pretty good about jumping in parties for the most part, unless I'm doing reviews or whatnot. Yeah, if you're interested in Sea of Thieves, but you don't want to pay for it, there will be a Game Pass giveaway on the podcast Twitter later, probably the day before Sea of Thieves launches. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, that pretty much covers all the housekeeping. So we'll do outros here. Rage, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X or at thelootgaming.com.
And you'll find those links in the description. And Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Talbert, and you can find me writing reviews, news, and opinion pieces for TICGN.com. Please come check us out. Yeah, for sure. Don't forget to check out the site. Sam's been working like crazy lately on the site and done a lot of good work. And we've got some really cool stuff in the pipeline that me and him have been working on. So, yeah, that's exciting. You can find me anywhere at Undead3XVI. I'm getting serious about uploading content this coming week. As people that follow me know, I'm on holidays right now. So there'll be some live streams. There's going to be some video content. I might be picking up a device that I might be doing a video review on tomorrow, barring I can find a decent price for it. So that's exciting. And yeah, just subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you enjoy the podcast. And if you have anything you want to add to the podcast, or even if you want to hop on this podcast at some point, don't hesitate to direct message me at Undead3XVI. Or if I don't, I'm going to throw this out there. If I don't follow you on Twitter, just please DM the podcast Twitter, because I've got my DMs set to followers or people I follow only, or else it goes into this little bin. I get a good amount of hate mail on a weekly basis, so I have my Twitter set to a certain extent. So yeah, other than that, thanks everyone for tuning in. You can catch us next week on Monday. I'll be announcing something special that we'll be doing on the podcast that these guys don't even know about yet. They'll find out more tomorrow. So that's exciting. So thanks guys for showing up. Hope you guys have a fantastic Saturday night, and you can catch us all next week. Peace.